coming up on this episode of the Spiro Podcast.
Because some people, especially if think of customer service oriented, high C personality, they're going to feel bad about telling you where there's gaps at, where the problems are at. And they're just going to sling it on their back and they're going to continue to pile it up because they'll feel bad telling you that there's a problem. And then when that gets too heavy for them, they're going to leave you. So ask them, what could you do to make their job easier?
Welcome to the Spiro Podcast, managing your real estate photography and videography business. With your hosts, Todd Kivimaki and Craig Magrum.
Hi, and welcome to the Spiro Podcast, managing your real estate photography and videography business. Spiro is a software platform that's designed to really help you manage your day-to-day activities, your day-to-day business, and also help you scale if that's one of your goals also. I'm Craig Magrum, host of the podcast. Always glad to have you join us, and thank you for your time. Let me introduce the Spiro co-host and owner and founder of the company, Todd Kivimaki. Welcome back, Todd.
Hey, Craig. Hey, happy Friday. It's good to be back. And happy whatever day it is for all of you out there. It's Friday for us, but it's glad to be back on here. Have some good topics today, some user requested topics. We got a lot to cover today.
Yeah, we do. And we know your time is valuable, so we're going to just cut right to things. Todd, Spiro Updates. What do we got going on with the software?
Yeah, we had some big ones this last week. So I'll just read from the top down. Cubicasa integration. So now this was the number one requested feature on the feedback board, and you all have access to that. In the upper right-hand corner of Spiro, you'll see a little feedback bubble. Hover on that and then click to go to our board. And that is done now. So your input on that board is super important. You know, excuse me, let me see if I can formulate a complete sentence for you all today. When we are looking at what we wanted to work on next, it's super simple. Go to the top of the list. The most users want this. It happened to be Cubicasa. So that is in your system now. You can search the knowledge base for all these. We have full guides on how to do all of these items. So I'm going to breeze past them just to put them in your brain so you know they're there. And then you can go to the knowledge base or the help bubble to find how you implement that. The second is now you can specify a default template for your property websites. So by default, we would put a header, property information, the gallery, the map, and then a contact information. If you want those sections different, say you want a floor plan on every property website or a 3D section, you can set your company default and the order, and you can call it a different name on the property website. So you can set that. And then much like we do in the entire system is you can set it for your company, but then if a real estate company calls you and wants something different, you can do it custom for them. Then if you have an agent that calls and says, hey, I want it even different, can you have these sections in this order? You can even override that at an agent level. So that is all in there. On editors, we've completely reformulated the way that we work with editors. So when we built the system, I'm just going to be open and honest, y'all. We didn't anticipate that we would have this many users and users sharing editors. Okay, we just didn't think about that. So prior to this update, an editor had to be unique, meaning if we used an editor, you couldn't use an editor or vice versa. You'd have to use a different email address. That was the workaround. Well, now you can input the same email address as another Spiro user. The system works around it. And then when your editors log in, they can switch between Spiro users to work on all of your all tasks. The neat thing is this. Yeah, this also carries over, though, Craig, not only to editors, but to photographers, because we've heard some photographers say, hey, I work for two different Spiro users, and I want to use the same email address. And then also for admins as well. So we had some of you that are like, hey, I want to help set up another user's Spiro account. And they've asked that Spiro user to add them as an admin. Well, prior to today, you couldn't, and now you can. So kind of cool to see that happening, and that is all in there for you. You can also, on an editor, you can change the email address that the Dropbox link the Dropbox share link goes to. So maybe your editor uses one email address for communication, but they use a different email address to sign into Dropbox. Well, that different email address is where we need to send the share folder to. You can change that on an editor profile. Photographer time off management. So now you can set time off for your photographers. Go to the calendar view, click, add time off. You'll use this because, one, sometimes your photographers can't, say they get hurt or injured, heaven forbid, and they can't mark themselves as unavailable. You can set that time off. The other big one is company events and company holidays. So you can mark those off. Yes, and that's just done on the calendar view. We have reformulated the way that we draw PDFs, invoice PDFs, and then the view button is much more cleaner on the pay before download page. So that is all in there. We've become a little bit more efficient with page breaks as well, and then various UI and UX improvements across the system.
Man, there's a lot that goes into this, you know?
There is. There's probably about 8 or 10 more small little ones, like you can invoice at any point, just some small user things. And what our goal is for everyone is that you guys just go and use it how you want it. So it's been great to see the support and so many of you come in and use it. And our goal is to make sure that it feels like your system. We built it for us. We love that at WOW. We built the system for us, and we really loved it because it did what we wanted it to do. Now, when all of you come in, and we're so thankful for that, you do business a little bit different. Sometimes you go, oh, yeah, this makes sense with WOW. I'll do it this way. And sometimes you go, hey, I just don't operate like that. In those cases, that's when we want to give you an option, a toggle, inside the system.
And for those of you that maybe aren't Spiro users yet, or you've got another system that's working for you, if you're curious, you can create a free account and just take it for a test drive. Check it out. It doesn't cost you anything, but check it out at spiro.media. Just thought I'd throw that in there real quick.
Yeah. Thank you, Craig.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to keep things moving.
Craig, I forgot. This is terrible. We should talk. Hey, we have a Spiro users Facebook group. So just search Spiro Super Users. If you can join that, if you're a Spiro user, join that. And when you join, input the email that you use in Spiro so we can make sure you're a Spiro user. But on that Facebook page, I'm going to be doing a tech talk with Todd the first and third Thursdays of the month. So I'm going to be on there. Some of my team might be in there. We're going to talk tech. So this could be Spiro related. This could be, can it do this? How do you do that? I want to set up task. This could also be really anything else. For those of you that talk to me, I'm somewhat of an open book, and I succeed when you guys succeed. And Craig and I have done this for a long time, and we're happy to share. That's the goal of this podcast. So we wanted to give one more avenue where you all have access to me, because as we grow, that's one thing that I've missed. Like as we had a small amount of users, I knew all of you. And I love that. I love to know all of you. I just can't know all of you now. And that kind of pains my C personality, because I want you all to feel like you're okay and I want to give you this attention. I'm just realistic in the fact that I can't help you all. So we're building a great team. There's a great team for you guys. But also I wanted to give you an opportunity where I am there and you can come ask questions. Let's talk about Spiro. Let's talk about building your business. So the first one will be September 5th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on the Spiro Super Users Facebook group.
I've got it on my calendar. I'm going to be tuning in whenever I can. It'll be cool to see everybody and interact. And day to day, I'm not in Spiro a ton other than the photographers portal. And there's been so many new features since I was more involved day to day when we were first getting Spiro off the ground. But being involved more on the WOW side of things now, I would love to see, what else is going on inside the system. So check it out, the Spiro Super Users group on Facebook. If you don't have a Facebook account because you're younger than we are and we're old, it's time. Facebook, it's still a relevant platform.
Yeah, it is. I went to an event, a piano concert last night, and Lance, who does all of our plumbing here, he's like, hey, don't take offense to this, but you're getting a lot of gray. I'm like, it's good to see you too, Lance. It's really good to see you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I got it coming in there.
Yeah, I shaved this morning. I was like, wow, I've got so much gray hair. So yeah, we're gray, so we use Facebook. I'm sorry for you younger people.
I don't know if you knew this, Todd. I know we're chit-chatting. We're getting up. It's a squirrel moment, but bear with us. It was a couple of years ago I heard this, but do you know who the fastest, at least a couple of years ago, who the fastest growing group of Facebook users was? Now, remember, this started as a college platform, right?
Yeah, I don't know, Craig, but I intend that this is going to just further confirm that we're old.
Women in their 50s.
Okay. There you go.
Fastest growing Facebook group, at least a couple of years ago. That's what it was. Now it's probably, well, never mind. Okay, let's get to the next portion of the podcast episode here. We always invite your questions. Man, I feel like we are just off the rails today, Todd, but that's okay. That's what makes this fun.
If you just skipped to this point, you missed all the banter. So you skipped to the correct point.
Yeah, we had a great suggestion. I don't know why I wasn't doing this before, but we're going to start putting timestamps on, especially on the YouTube channel, of where you can skip to content. If you just want to get to the meat, we understand. Anyway, I'm going to start doing that for us. And
Tim Bohr, thanks for the suggestion.
Great suggestion. Yeah, appreciate that. Okay. So we always invite listener and viewer questions. If there's a topic that you want a little bit more information on, we say, hey, let us know. We want to answer what your business questions are about real estate media. Mm-hmm. So we had a question come in, and this came from Sam. And do you want me to read this, or you want to read this, Todd? I'll set it up. How's that?
That'd be great. Thanks.
Okay. So Sam wrote in and said, hey there, wanted to reach out after watching the recent YouTube podcast and ask for some help with contracts. Great question. Mm-hmm. I'm working up on setting up my first brokerage deal. Congrats, Sam. That's awesome.
Yes.
And looking to get some insight into what kind of package deals I should offer. Love some help working up a draft or whatnot before I meet with the lawyer. Thanks so much for your time, Sam. Great question. And Todd, how do you handle contracts with brokerages for a brokerage deal?
Yeah, so this is a fabulous question, Sam. This is a two-part answer. The first thing is you asked about contracts and also asked about working up packages. Mm-hmm. Now, we have a very fine-tuned process with the way we do packages. And the biggest thing is that you need to be consistent among all of your clients. When you draw up those packages, you need to assume that client A is going to figure out client B's pricing. And you have to be able to justify that client A gets a bigger discount than client B. So we've made this mistake in the past, and we were giving discounts based on really emotion, feeling, what we thought about the client, if we wanted to take, if we are getting towards our like quota of efficiency, like, hey, can we really discount this because we know it's going to cost us less money because overhead has already been eaten up that year. So long story short, what we have done, and I believe we did a bigger portion of a podcast a while back, but I'll give you the cliff notes again, is one, create a rubric. So go into Excel or Microsoft or Google Sheets and create a rubric of discounts. So if a company sends you this many jobs, let's say 100 jobs a year, they will get a X% discount, 5, 10, 15, 20. You decide. We won't talk quite about that right now. And then go down and create the next tier, up to 200 jobs per year. They get X plus Y discount. So, 100, 200, 500, 1,000 jobs, 2,000, 5,000 jobs a year they send you, and they get 5, 10, 15, 20, 30% discount off of your list price. So create that rubric and share it with your clients. Of course, clients are always going to want to have the highest discount. Say 30% is your highest discount. And again, I'm just throwing numbers out here, but say 30% is your highest discount. Well, you show it to a broker that they have 100 listings a year, and they're going to want that 30% discount, but they only qualify for a 5 or a 10% discount. You can justify and say, hey, I want you to have the 30% discount. I would love you to have it. We want to give it to you. You just need to qualify for it, and you need to send us 500 jobs a year. And it's a way not to tell them no, but to tell them how they're going to get that 30% discount. So I would strongly recommend that. At our company, we do not discount photos only. We try to always package photo and video together. So part of our strategy is to sell more at each appointment. That's why we built the order page the way it sits. That's why we have company pricing in Spiro. That's why we have the merge fleet in Spiro. All of those things work together, that if you sell photo and video over the course of a year, your average value order, your average sale price goes up. You make more money. Not only that, but your client gets better marketing material. So you decide if you want to discount photos only, that's okay. I won't hold anything against you. Photos only is an entry to using your company. We used to somewhat look down upon agents. Oh, they're only photos only. It's like, well, no, you have to start somewhere. Right. They're using us. They're clients. They believe in us. We can get to work with them, and then we can educate them on why to use video, 3D, drone, all of the above. So my first answer is be consistent and assume that broker A is going to see broker B's pricing. And we had a moment where we actually went back to a broker who should have gotten something, a bigger discount. It was actually, we would have thrown something in. It was an add-on. And we went back to them and we discounted it for them to make sure that it was in line, because it was like, oh, holy crap, if this individual hears that this other company's getting this discount, I'm going to get a call and he's not going to be too happy because he's my best client. So that was kind of like a cold sweat moment, like, oh, wow. And we realized it, and then we made it right. Yeah. And that's one thing in business. You are going to screw things up. I screw things up every day. Just make them right. Okay. Just make them right. You don't have to tell them like, hey, broker B's getting a bigger discount. Just say, hey, we really value your partnership when we were reviewing pricing and information and the jobs you're sending us this year. And in efforts to get your agents to use drone more, we want to discount drone for you. That was our exact scenario.
Yeah. And again, just to reinforce what Todd said, the consistency in how you offer those discounts is critically important, because think about this. And Todd, I just had this happen just in the last 2 weeks, where the manager of one of the offices of one of the larger brokerages that we served just left that brokerage and went to a competitor in town. Yeah. Shock move to everybody, because nobody saw this one coming. And this manager is very well known in my market. So she knows what that pricing is that they got at her previous brokerage. She's now coming into a brokerage that we don't have a relationship with, that I'm still trying to work on. And she's going to see the pricing that they get, and she's going to go, whoa.
Yeah.
So just be consistent in how you present it. Now, I asked her if we could talk with her in the ownership of this brokerage. And I told her, I said, I'd love to give a better program to you guys as a whole, like you had at your previous brokerage, but it's based on volume. You know, are you open to talking? And she called to schedule a shoot and said, and yes, I'm going to get back to you. And yes, we'll have you come in and talk with us again. So
nice.
Just be honest, run your business with integrity, make sure your pricing structure and discount structure is consistent so that you don't ever have to be embarrassed about when somebody asks you a question, because they know what your pricing is for their competitor. It's going to happen.
Yeah, you're right. It's going to happen. Assume it's going to happen and just create it feeling good about you can justify what you're giving each client.
Right.
So that would be the first thing I would suggest. So Sam, get that rubric and don't overthink it. One of my coaches, like I have this glitch in my brain that I want everything I create to be perfect. And like, you know all the sayings like perfection, parallelization, all those things. Just think of this as your next best draft. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is my best draft right now. I want to get it done. And I want to get it off my plate, and I can always improve it later. But just do 3 tiers, 100, 200, 500, and start there and put a discount on it and do 5, 10, and 15. If you're struggling with it, just do that, and you'll be pretty close to good enough. And then go sell a brokerage deal or two, figure out where there's gaps at, and then go back and adjust it. You'll be fine.
There you go.
So that's part A. Part B, Craig, was the contract. So And he mentioned, I believe Sam mentioned something about, should I get an attorney involved? And the answer is if you want to. But do you need to? I don't think so. So we at Wow Video Tours, our real estate media company, we don't feel as though we need a client to sign this ironclad agreement. We don't believe in that. We believe that if we're bringing value and we create a good relationship and partnership, that they will stay loyal to us because we're doing good for them. Mm-hmm. That's kind of just economic. That's just business at its core. Okay. So if you're taking care of your client, you never want your client to use you because they're legally forced to because they signed a contract. That is just, I used to have this misconception that like I would feel good about that because it was safe. And the thing is you're just creating this ticking time bomb for people to understand when your contract comes to an end and to outbid you and to find someone to transition into because they feel like they're locked into a contract. Mm-hmm. Plus, no, you're always going to have a 30-day clause in there where you can, with a 30-day notice, you can close the contract. I don't know that anybody's going to sign something that's going to lock, a broker is going to sign something that's going to lock them in. You know, they're smarter than that. So what we do is we have just a simple agreement, and it's communication and expectations. We preach highly on this at Wow. We believe that if you set proper expectation and you communicate those, that is the recipe for success in anything you do. So I have one of these here today, and Craig so kindly sent us our latest that we use at Wow. But we just have the company name at the top, and for this one, this is discounted pricing terms. So company name, brokerage deal, pricing terms. The first thing that we cover in there is our exclusivity clause. I can't say exclusive clause, whatever. You guys know what I'm saying. You guys know if you've listened to this, you know I can't speak. So point one is that we want to be exclusive with them. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to read it to you. And if y'all want to type it out, I don't care. Just remove my company name and put your company name in. Client agrees to exclusively utilize Wow Video Tours as the preferred vendor for all business-related needs during the term of this agreement. The client understands and acknowledges that this exclusivity requirement is necessary for the business to offer discounted pricing. So you can take that verbatim, just put your company name in place of Wow Video Tours. The reason we ask for this is because we want to partner with them. Mm-hmm. And for us to feel and to put all the time and effort into what we need to make this relationship a success, we want them just to date us. Okay? Like, we don't want you to date other people, right? I mean, think back to when you're dating somebody. Like, if that person's dating someone else, you don't feel like you're really going to put as much time into it. So that's important for us. And then we have, and I'm going to breeze through these because you can just write up. These are simple. The term. So this is just what the term is, how they would terminate it, how we calculate pricing. And that's really about it. We review February 1st of each year, it's saying here. So the term, then you need to have termination. You just have to have this in here. How can you or they terminate the agreement? Okay. So termination clause, confidentiality clause. So we ask them to keep this between us. So that's a confidentiality clause. And then we have that pricing tier. So that grid, we just paste it in there. This is the pricing. Then we go on to payment, any payment terms. So for these deals, we typically allow them to take invoice weekly or monthly. So just put your terms in there, how they're going to pay you. For us, a lot of times with these agreements, we ask them to pay us via a check or a bank transfer. That saves us a little money on not having to pay the 3% on the credit card fee.
Todd, let me interrupt real quick with a question. Yeah. So this is assuming that the brokerage is paying for the photos and or video for the agent, correct?
That is, however, you could specify that the agents are responsible for. So okay. Yeah, just whatever the agreement is, we try to push for that the company takes the bill. But if you don't have a company that's comfortable with that, just put the terms in there with when the payment will be made.
Okay.
Also in here, we have a late fee if someone pays, if after 15 days of late of being late, we assess a $25 late fee. That's in here as well. Again, just set those expectations so when somebody gets a late fee, they're not surprised by it. Mm-hmm. Governing law. So just search a governing law clause. We have that in here. And then entire agreement. So that's just some legalities here. Entire agreement. This agreement constitutes the entire agreement between the parties, supersedes all prior negotiations, understandings, and agreements between the parties, whether written or oral. That's pretty standard to have in an agreement. So that is, and I know that was fast, but that is, I wanted to do that quickly to show you how simple it is. We don't overthink this. We truly believe that if this is good for them and us, we don't want this piece of paper that locks them in. So that's the way we do it. The most important, the biggest things we ask for is them to be exclusive with us. And then we just set consistent pricing that we are comfortable with knowing anybody would see it.
And again, remember, this is at the broker level. The individual realtors still have the ultimate choice in who they choose. We're just asking the brokerage, would you promote us as exclusively to your agents?
Yeah.
That's the idea.
So Sam, I hope that helps. If anything, you could begin to draw that up and then send it to an attorney and let that attorney tweak it from there. It might save you a couple $100 because they might spend a little bit of less time on it. But if this is something that you're targeting, it's never a bad idea to spend a few $100s and send it to an attorney. It's never, because they might bring up something in your state and in your country. This is assuming I don't know anything about any type of contract outside of the U.S. So for all of our listeners that are worldwide, I just want to advocate it's never a bad idea to send a document to an attorney just to make sure that you cover your rear end.
There you go. All right. Well, hopefully that answers your question, Sam. Great question. Thanks for sending that to us. Again, if you have questions, we will try and get to those here on the podcast. Just email us hello@spiro.media. All right. Awesome. Let's transition into the meat of this week's episode, Todd. Very, very timely topic. We here in the U.S., we're starting to transition into the fall. It's still summer, but end of summer, schools are getting back in. The pace of real estate changes. There are seasons in the work that we do, right? So we have a busy season, for those of us here in the Great Lakes region, for example, it's like March through, I don't know, what would you say, September, October? And then it just kind of dies. Yeah. So there's different paces of business life in our industry. So what we want to talk about is how do you make that seasonal transition in your business? And Todd, I wanted to kind of focus in on this question at the owner/leader level of a company. We've talked in past episodes a lot about the rhythm of business kind of at the ground level. What I'm doing with business development, going out, trying to solicit new business, retain business, my coffee meetings, presenting at office meetings, sponsoring events through your local MLS board, things like that. Those are kind of like tactical, ground level type activities that change throughout the year. But from an owner's perspective, what does that transition in business life look like when you're going from, say, busy season to more the slow off season?
Yeah, this is a great question. And this is something that can be challenging. In life, any transitions as humans, it's tough for us. And because we're used to one thing and we begin to get that figured out, we begin to get a flow and a cadence to life. And then things change and we go, oh, holy cow, this is something new. This is unknown. Your brain kind of goes, wait a minute, is this a problem? What don't I know? Where can I screw up? Where can I make mistakes? And really embracing those transitions, as tough as it is I think a just incredible skill to grow into and something that I'm still trying to figure out as well. So I somewhat like transitions and I like change for any of you that kind of know me. it's kind of funny, just as a tangent. I was in the office yesterday. I'm staring out my office door. I'm like, I really don't like the way the office is arranged anymore. So Jess and I and Steve, we rearranged the office yesterday. And and Ryan Jones, who's a friend of mine, but he works out of the office, and he's like, Todd, you get bored easily, don't you? Like, yeah, I do, in fact. And just breaking that down a little bit, that was somewhat a squirrel moment for me, but it was strategic that I had Jess and Steve both helping me. So it was like this moment where I've heard from them in meetings I've had is that we are busy. I mean, we are busy. Like, we took 97 orders on Monday, like we're, and we have a large team, but we are busy. There is a lot of input and a lot of output. And I've heard from both of my leaders who I meet with regularly at WOW. I've heard that they're beginning to feel that. Okay. And I'm picking up on some of these cues and things, and I'm understanding that they're starting to feel a little burnout and tired. And in fact, I was starting to feel that, and I took a little time. And if I feel it, so replace Todd with your name. If you're feeling it as the owner of your company, your employees, your contractors are feeling it too, probably a lot more than you. Because remember, you show up every day and your name's on the building. Okay, so you own the business. If you don't have a building, so be it. But you understand what I'm saying? You show up every day and you are building something that's yours. So you are going to have the most capacity for it. So if you are starting to feel like, wow, this is like, I could use a little break. Think of your employees. They could probably use a break a lot worse. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't take a break. That's not what I'm saying, but just be aware. So yesterday, in my squirrel moment of rearranging the furniture in the office, it was actually a little strategic in the fact that I got them out of their office. I mean, they stare at the computer 8-9 hours a day. And there is a study that you become significantly less efficient the more that you just sit and try to pound through something.
That's true.
And I can't remember what the percentage is, but it's huge. And I was reading a book last week. Oh, it's the same. So The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, the book that Craig suggested. And I'm a slow reader and I'm hurried, so I don't read enough. So I'll just raise my hand to that. I'm still, yes, you guys are like, you're still reading that book, Todd. Yes, I am. But he gave this stat that, this is John Mark Comer. For those of you that don't know, like, look it up. It's a great read. But he gave this stat that if you work 50 hours a week, you are just as productive if you work 60, 70, and I think even 80 hours a week.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? You're not getting anything more done. So if you go 50, insane. It's no different than 70, because those last 20 hours, you're just so ineffective that you're wasting that time. Yeah. So that, I read that and that really hit me. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, so the idea is that, and just one more simple example, because I love real life examples. School. Okay. It's back to school season. And what happens every 45 or 50 minutes for for the kids in school? School bell rings. They get up. They go to the next, they have 8 minutes in between or 10 minutes in between. They go to the next class. And that is strategically done for a reason, because as a human, you can only sit and focus for so long before you have to get up. You have to take your eyesight away from the computer in front of you, from whatever you're doing. You have to change scenery, and you have to let your body relax a bit. And then you can come back and then you can focus again. So my idea was, I've heard from my leaders that they're starting to feel a little burnt out, and I will go to their window and in a kind of playful and kind way, like you need to get up, like, let's walk. And they're like, and so that was serving a purpose yesterday. Yes, I love the way the office is rearranged, but it's just nice to get up. Okay. So as silly as you guys are, like, if you're sitting out there saying that's silly, like, I'm telling you, do it. And as you build a team, these are all the things that funnel into the word that's so important in a business of culture.
Mm-hmm.
Just your employees understanding that you're not there just to crack the whip, that you care about them.
Yep. It kind of goes back to the episode you did a couple of weeks ago on empathy. Empathy, even for your staff, not just for your clients, but for your staff as well.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. And that is even, I'd almost argue, more important than empathy for your clients, because your staff are the ones you're asking to have the same empathy for your clients that come in. So if they don't learn that from you, then who are they going to model that off of?
Right. Yeah.
So that was an activity I did yesterday, and just trying to bring, so in this transition, I'm understanding that we need to change our pace at WOW right now. And I talked about this a little bit in Friday morning meeting, but just letting the team know, like, hey, this change of pace is coming up and it's okay. We're going to take a moment to breathe. Mm-hmm. And we're going to take a moment to celebrate the fabulous year that it's been. And some things that we have working behind the scenes is right now we're working on just a quick survey to go out to all of our employees to ask them what that celebration or what that slowdown looks like. How can we continue to build relationships outside of these walls, outside of these hours with all of the team? And this becomes a little tricky because, yes, Craig, you and I could meet. We're close enough in distance that we could meet. But for Pam, yes, she could drive and it's a little bit longer. For Joy, it's 8 hours. Mm-hmm. For Besa, it's 10 hours in a plane. For Justine and his team and Jesse and Patrick, it's it's a day on a plane. Yeah, it's right. Half a world away. So that's the thing that was a gap, and we refer to these as gaps as we meet. Is we want to make sure that the team knows that we're super proud of them, and how can we get people to build more relationships outside of these walls, and what can we do as a company to help nurture that and get that started?
That's a huge investment in your business. Mm-hmm. During the busy season, you might not have time to think about all of that and put the time into it, but that's part of the seasonal transition. Is now that activity, your day-to-day shooting activity, is slowing down, you can invest in your business now in a different way to make sure your team is healthy. So great first point here on seasonal transition.
It's something that I used to never focus on. And some of it was me just being naive to the fact that I didn't think people needed it because I felt invigorated about it. And then I assumed that my feelings were everyone else's feelings. And it's not until you have somewhat of a culture kind of blow up or clash that you realize that you didn't nurture an environment where people felt healthy and, they felt like you appreciated them.
Yeah. There's a mental difference being owner versus being an employee. When I think of, I owned and ran my own real estate media business, a little bit ago. It is different now working for WOW. But for me, it's kind of unique because a lot of my current clients are my old clients. So I still feel some ownership in a different way than any other employee might. But I think back to a previous job I had where I worked in a cubicle. I didn't feel ownership in that company. It was a job and I felt like a cog in a wheel. So keeping in mind as the owner, as the leader of your business, keeping that in mind of how your staff might feel, where they don't necessarily feel ownership, how can you get them to buy in and show them value, that you appreciate them? And that will go a long way to keeping them motivated and feeling like they're providing value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, for sure. 100%. And that it comes back to one word that we use a ton, Craig, and we typically refer to it as building with client acquisition, but relationships. Mm-hmm. It's no different than with your realtors than with your employees, and also your vendors, your VAs. Just, you shouldn't think of it any different.
Yeah. they're not necessarily family. I hesitate to call colleagues family, but man, they're some darn close friends, and you can develop some really good friendships within your business that you're able to work well together.
Yeah. So let me just give a couple of action items here for everybody to think about, because I don't want to overwhelm everybody with things that you should do. And I'll admit that my day's probably a bit different than most of your days, as to where I do have a leadership team that runs the day-to-day at WOW. I meet with them and I understand what's going on, but I don't have my hands in. And I'll just assume that you are out there as the business owner, and you might be a solo shooter, you might have a VA, but you might have a small team. And even if you have a large team, you can take these as well. But this will work for all of you, but a few actionable items, because I just love actionable things that are bite-sized. So the first is now is a time that you need to collect data. Okay, so what do you mean by that, Todd? Well, you understand the business at some capacity, but you need to understand what those working with you understand. Okay, you understand? You understand what I'm saying? That's terrible. Or maybe it's good now that I used it so many times. So I don't know what's in this coffee. What Panera put in this coffee this morning?
For those of you listening, I wish you could see our faces. Anyway, okay. I understand, okay. Todd. Please continue.
Oh, Craig, I love what you did there. So collect data. So you know the business some extent, but they operate a completely different way. Okay, they are the masters of what they're doing, and they own those processes. So it's important to just ask them. So when I meet with Steve and Jess at WOW, and I meet with them on a monthly level, but then we have a team meeting once a week, and we talk about what's going well. We talk about where are their gaps at. And then I always ask, is there anything I can do to help? And in those conversations, I take notes and I compile those and I keep track of what that is, so I can understand what is good, what are wins for the team, and what is heavy, and where they feel like there's inefficiencies or gaps. Now is the time in off season to begin to work on that gap list. So if you haven't had those conversations with your employees, it's super easy. All you have to do is either have the conversation, or if you want to be more efficient, you can just send out a simple questionnaire and ask them those same things. Where are their gaps? Where I always like to start with what's going well, what are some wins, and then go to gaps. A simple thing you could ask is, what can I do to make your job easier? Because some people, especially think of customer service oriented, a high C personality, they're going to feel bad about telling you where there's gaps at, where the problems are at. And they're just going to sling it on their back, and they're going to continue to pile it up because they'll feel bad telling you that there's a problem. And then when that gets too heavy for them, they're going to leave you. So ask them, what could you do to make their job easier? We find good success with that. You'll definitely have to ask your team in the Philippines, because I've learned this culture that you'll have to ask them that. Then you'll have to kindly bump them and ask them to actually, don't feel bad. I want to make your job easier. I really am asking, don't feel bad about telling me these things. I want to make the business better, because the culture in the Philippines as a whole is it's such an incredible culture. They're friendly. They're happy all the time. And they don't want to tell you what's not working well. They just want to fix it, and they want to do it. But you can only push them so much. I mean, they're an intricate part of many of our teams.
Yeah.
So ask. The first thing is just ask, collect the information. Okay, spend the time with your employees to show that you care and understand where they're doing well and where they're not doing well. And then from there, you've built a list. You've kind of built a punch list for the winner. You can prioritize it based on what you feel or what they feel is the most important. And then from there, you can begin to include them in those initiatives. So don't feel as though you're just building the list for yourself. I used to go into these meetings and I used to walk out feeling very overwhelmed because I would okay, I can do that for you. Okay, I can get this over to you. I can do this for you. And I felt like I'd piled all on my shoulders because I wanted them to feel like I could do this for them. That's not what this conversation is about. This conversation is simply about collecting it. And then your team will help you solve this, will do this for you. You just need to include them in those conversations, and you need to communicate that to them, compile the whole list, and then have a team meeting where you say, hey, thank you so much for sharing with me. We talked about what's going well, where there are some gaps at. And our goal for this off season is to look at that gap list of what we can do to make your job easier. And we want to cross some things off. So today I want to show you the top 5 gaps that you all have told me at our company. And we, as a goal, we want to cover these from now until the end of January. And we want to make sure that we go into busy season next year as a refresh company where you have these tools and you have the ability to not have to worry about these processes so that we can continue to grow, align with our core values, and that we can, do it all successfully as a team. So,
yeah.
Go ahead, Craig.
It's smart to, set up that list of what you're going to tackle for the off season. Have that conversation now when there's a little bit of lull with schools getting back in. But Todd, would you say that it'd be smart then, like you said, you talked about prioritizing that list, maybe setting specific deadlines, because that off season is going to go fast. We get busy with the holidays, and man, before you know it, February's, March is swinging back around. And did we get done what we talked about?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Craig, because the only thing that a to-do list does is makes everybody stay awake at night. It's just like this, it's this reason to procrastinate, right? It's like this list, like, oh my gosh, like, I'm looking over at my wall, like, oh, there's this list, like, oh geez, what didn't I get done? So one simple technique there is you're just going to set a timeline, and you are going to say, this is gap list number 1. Maybe it's, communication between the office, between the clients, and we're going to unify communication. So what we're going to do is this is what the timeline looks like. By the end of November, we want to have a new system in place. We want to set a couple new procedures, and we want to have a cadence of company communication, intercommunication. And then from there, you have to just work backwards. So how we're going to achieve that by the end of November is the next week, we're going to begin meeting as a team. So we're going to meet for 1 hour, and we're going to talk further in about where there's gaps. And then from there, we're going to have a follow-up meeting. And by the end of those 2 meetings, we would have identified what the possible solutions are. And then from there, you're just going to set a few more. I think I've referred to this, and a coach did it with me, as you're stacking dominoes. So if pretend your goal is a mile down the road and you've set up a domino. Okay, so that's the goal, that last domino. Well, if you come back 1 mile to the starting point, how are you going to knock that domino down? Right. Well, you have to set up a whole bunch of little dominoes to get to the last domino. So that's all you're doing. You're just breaking it apart. And again, you don't have to know what the parts are. Please don't do that. I've done that in the past, and that feels heavy. Just ask your team what the parts are. They know, honestly, they know better than you. They do it every day. And you might do it well, but they do it better than you. So ask them what it is. They have ideas. You just have to pull it out of them.
So I think by keeping it narrow, a narrow focus on this episode of the beginning of the transition of this season, creating that goal list, that's kind of our first step in this seasonal transition period. Yes. Set your goals for the off season, meet with your team, talk with leadership, and look at this from an ownership and leadership 10,000 foot view versus the down to the trenches, tactics and ground level view.
Yes.
Cool.
And let's just start there. So just collect the information. I'm doing this with all of you. So let's collect the information, and then we'll come back on. I'll give you an update as what we did. what we collected, and then we'll move step by step through this process together.
Perfect. Love it. Love it. If you have questions about this or thoughts and ideas on how you handle your off season, feel free to drop us an email, hello@spiro.media, or you can also leave us a comment on the YouTube channel. And we'd love to hear your thoughts and processes. This is kind of a community podcast, helping each other grow and get better in our businesses. Todd, thank you for the insight on that.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that is going to do it this week. And like Todd said, we will continue to tackle this topic as we head into off season, at least here in the States, just on how you can work not just in your business, but on your business, a phrase Todd likes to use, especially in this slower time that we're coming up on. So appreciate your time. Make sure you take some time to breathe. Maybe you give yourself a week or two to just kind of relax a little bit, slow down, and then start gearing up for off season and what you want to get accomplished. But be thankful for your blessings. Take the time to breathe. Have a great week. We appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for the Spiro Podcast, Managing Your Real Estate Photography and Videography Business. This is a production of Spiro and Wow Video Tours. You can find out more about Spiro's real estate media business management software at our website, spiro.media.